This footage shows the moment 23-year-old Iryna Zarutska walked into her worst nightmare. She had just finished her shift at a Charlotte pizzeria, tired, ready to go home, completely unaware that a man sitting quietly on the train was about to shatter her life. DeCarlos Brown Jr. had already shown signs he was spiraling, but no one stopped him. By the time things went wrong, it was too late. But why Iryna? Was this random, or was she somehow chosen? This is the shocking story of the schizophrenic homeless man who killed an innocent 23-year-old on a train. At just 23 years old, Iryna Zarutska had lived through things most of us can't even wrap our heads around. Imagine waking up every day to the sound of sirens, explosions in Ukraine, wondering if this breath right now would be your last. That was her reality. Her uncle, who had already settled in the US, said one picture broke him. It was Iryna and her family huddled in a cramped bomb shelter beneath their Kiev apartment. That snapshot was all it took for him to say, "I need to get them out." And so in 2022, Iryna fled the war with her mom, her sister, and her brother. They made it to North Carolina and started over in Charlotte. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe enough to dream. She enrolled at Rowan Cabarrus Community College and told everyone she wanted to be a veterinary assistant. Day to day, her life was a mix of school and work. She picked up shifts at Zipetti's Pizzeria in South Charlotte, right in the buzzing South End, full of breweries, coffee shops, and apartments built up around the new light rail. The train was her link to independence. She hadn't gotten her license just yet because she was practicing and learning. And speaking of futures, she had just moved in with her boyfriend, 21-year-old Stanislav, or Stas as everyone called him. The two were young, in love, and already mapping out the life they wanted together. But after everything she survived in Ukraine, America had the deadliest twist waiting. On August 22nd, 2025, at about 9:50 a.m., Iryna had just finished her shift at the pizzeria and was heading home. It was a route she had taken countless times, so routine that she didn't think twice about it. The train car she stepped into was nearly empty, with only a few scattered passengers. She picked a random seat, sat down, and sent her boyfriend a quick text. "I'll be home soon," but tragically she never made it home. Just a few minutes later, around 9:55 a.m., officers with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department were dispatched to a horrifying call. Witnesses reported that a woman had been stabbed on the Lynx Blue Line light rail. When police arrived, they found Iryna inside the rail car with multiple stab wounds. She hadn't stood a chance. Investigators quickly turned to surveillance footage, and what they saw was nothing short of chilling. Around 9:50 a.m., the camera showed Iryna boarding the train, walking calmly, and taking a seat directly in front of a man wearing a red hoodie. Police confirmed that these two were complete strangers. No history, no prior connection, no interaction whatsoever before the attack. In the video, Iryna is seen scrolling on her phone, completely unaware of the danger lurking just behind her. For 4 minutes, everything seems normal. Then, without a word, the man pulls something from his pocket, unfolds it, and reveals a knife. Then, in a shocking instant, he lunges forward and jabs Iryna 3 times in the neck as stunned passengers watch in horror. I won't show you guys the actual attack, it's too disturbing, but there's a still frame from the video where you can see the fear in her eyes as she realizes what's happening. It's absolutely haunting. The attacker then casually walked away like it was nothing. Police later caught up with the suspect almost immediately on the platform outside. He was still carrying the pocket knife, and officers arrested him on the spot. Meanwhile, back at home, Iryna's boyfriend was getting restless. She was taking too long to get home. He tried calling, no answer. He texted, nothing. As time passed, his worry turned into a full-blown panic. He called her family hoping maybe she would stop by or had gotten delayed, but they hadn't heard from her either. But when they drove over to the station, that hope shattered. Instead of answers, they were met with devastating news. Iryna had been attacked on the train and was pronounced dead at the scene. Her family released a statement not long after. "We are heartbroken beyond words. Iryna came here to find peace and safety, and instead, her life was stolen from her in the most horrific way. No family should have to go through this." But tragically, this was only the beginning of the nightmare. The attacker's name was released quickly: 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr. And once that detail came out, people were stunned, because this wasn't a man with a clean slate. Brown's rap sheet stretched back years. 14 prior arrests. 14! And it started all the way back in 2007 when he was still a minor. By 2014, he was serving 5 years in prison for armed robbery. He got out in September 2020, but freedom did not make him better. By February 2021, he was already back in trouble, arrested for assaulting his own sister and leaving her with injuries. Police records confirm it, and if that wasn't bad enough, that same month he got picked up again, this time for trespassing and property damage. According to the report, he showed up somewhere that he had been banned from and literally kicked down the victim's front door. It didn't even stop there. In July 2022, he was arrested for yet another disturbance, this time disorderly conduct. The report says he was yelling and cursing, drawing attention from tenants, causing chaos, and over the years that followed, more arrests stacked up like dominoes. Felony larceny, robbery with a dangerous weapon, even communicating threats. By the time Iryna crossed paths with him, Brown was homeless, unstable, and spiraling fast. But here's what made this even more disturbing. His own family had been begging for help long before this happened. His mother spoke to a local news station, and she didn't mince words. She said what her son did was atrocious. She did not want anyone mistaking him for the victim in this case. When Brown got out of prison, everything about him changed. He started saying strange, paranoid things. He became more aggressive. In the end, she had to kick him out of her own home because she didn't feel safe. His sister Tracy saw the same transformation. She said it felt like she was dealing with a completely different person. He couldn't hold down a job. Even basic conversations with him didn't make sense, and sometimes he turned violent. He told her more than once that he believed the government had implanted a chip inside his body to control what he ate, when he walked, and even when he talked. But things only got worse. In January of this year, Brown actually called the police himself. He told them about the so-called man-made material he believed that was controlling his body. The officers told him it was a medical issue and brushed it off. When he called 911 again, out of frustration, they didn't get him help. They charged him with a misuse of 911, a misdemeanor. And here's the part that infuriates people. When Brown was taken to jail, Judge Teresa Stokes saw his violent record and set him free with just a written promise that he would come back to court. A written promise from a man who thought the government had a chip inside his brain. And of course, we all know how that promise ended. The clip of Iryna's murder spread across the internet like wildfire. Twitter, TikTok, Telegram, Instagram, you name it, it was there. And with every repost, the outrage grew louder. On Reddit, people were asking the same gut-wrenching question. She survived bombs in Kiev only to be murdered in America? Others were freeze-framing the footage, zooming in on the knife, and demanding to know how a man like DeCarlos was even free to begin with. And then came the second wave of horror. People noticed something in the footage that made their blood run cold. Because after stabbing Iryna, the killer didn't hide the weapon. He walked calmly down the carriage, knife in hand, blood dripping from the blade.
After the murder, accused killer DeCarlos Brown could be seen stalking the rail car, mumbling to himself, his knife dripping with blood. He's bleeding from a hand. Horrified passengers try to get out of his way.
I really do think people should have helped her. I think a lot of them didn't know what to do in that situation. I think a lot of them was shocked.
Then reports started spreading after the attack. DeCarlos allegedly said, "I got that white girl, I got that white girl." The one line ignited an entirely new firestorm. Suddenly, this wasn't just about brutal murder. It was being called a hate crime. And of course, you can already guess what happened next. Some of the most hateful corners of the internet jumped in, hijacking Iryna's tragedy to fuel their own bigoted agendas. And then politicians got involved. President Donald Trump released a statement after seeing the video, and he didn't hold back, writing on his Truth Social platform, "The animal who so violently killed the beautiful young lady from Ukraine who came to America searching for peace and safety should be given a quick, there is no doubt, trial and only awarded the death penalty. There can be no other option." Charlotte's own mayor, Vi Lyles, posted her statement on X. She said her heart went out to Irina's family, but she also admitted the truth that no one wanted to say out loud. This was a tragic failure by the courts and magistrates. Even the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, weighed in. He called Brown a monster with a track record longer than a CVS receipt. His words, not mine. And he put the blame squarely on Charlotte's justice system for failing not just Iryna, but every North Carolinian who rides that transit line. And then there was the judge at the center of it all, the one who let Brown walk free back in January, Magistrate Judge Teresa Stokes. As the backlash grew, she quietly deactivated her LinkedIn account, but by then the damage was already done.
Republican lawmakers are now calling for Judge Stokes' resignation by citing Brown's past convictions and prison time for armed robbery and possession of stolen goods.
Brown was first hit with a state charge of first-degree murder, but prosecutors quickly escalated things and added a federal count of causing death on a mass transportation system. And the feds weren't holding back. They announced that they would go for the maximum sentence.
Crime makes people stop taking that light rail. They give up those opportunities, and we are here to be sure that we can save our city and bring those opportunities back. The maximum penalty for this federal crime is life in prison without parole or the death penalty.
Still, one question haunted everyone. Why Iryna? The footage showed Brown already on the train before she even got on. He was just sitting there, hood up, quiet, nothing about him screamed danger, and that's the part that makes this whole thing so chilling. Did something in those minutes flip a switch inside of him? Or was this just a storm that had been brewing all along? His sister Tracy thinks it was the latter. She believes her brother suffered a complete mental break that night. And when you actually watch the footage leading up to the first attack, you start to see what she means. He's not still for more than a second. He's fidgeting, he nods his head, and then shakes like he's arguing with something in his mind. One moment, he's sitting upright, stiff as a board, and then suddenly he's slouched forward with his head pressed against the front of the seat in front of him. Every now and then, he just starts swaying back and forth. It's the kind of behavior you'd clock as strange, sure, but nothing that would make you think he was about to do what he did. Then, 6 days after the murder, the story takes another dark turn. Jailhouse audio recordings drop, and they give us a window into what was going through his mind that day. In the calls with his sister, Brown said he attacked Iryna because she was reading his mind. Yeah, that's what he believed. He admitted he hurt his hand during the stabbing, and then flat out said he didn't even know her, hadn't even spoken to her once. But it gets even more bizarre. He went on to claim that the government had actually implanted materials in his brain that were controlling him.
You know that's not me. I'm talking about just for no reason. But since they did that, now they gotta investigate the material in my body he's supposed to. Since they want to do all that, now they gotta investigate.
But when his sister asked why he chose Iryna, his answer was more disturbing than the murder itself.
Hey, it ain't. I don't have nothing. They just lashed out on her. That's what happened. They lashed out on her. Whoever was working the material, they lashed out on.
That's what he told his sister. To him, it wasn't even about Iryna. It was about these so-called materials inside of his brain, lashing out through him. But while Brown spiraled into conspiracy, his mother was far more grounded. She told reporters her son should have never been released back into the community in the first place, not with his criminal record, and not with his serious mental health diagnosis. That horrible video of Iryna's last moments is still floating around online. Her family is begging people, the media, strangers, anyone to stop reposting it. To them, seeing that clip is like watching her be murdered over and over again. They don't want that to be her legacy. They want people to remember Iryna for her smile, her dreams, her life, not the way it was stolen from her. And while the city holds vigils, lights candles, and promises reform, there's a darker truth hanging in the air. Because this isn't just about one man on one train. It's about a system with cracks so wide, people like DeCarlos Brown keep slipping through until someone innocent pays the price. So now we're left with the most chilling question of all. How many more Browns are already out there, waiting for the right night, the right train, the right victim?